This isn't your typical couple of players grumbling off the record kind of situation. This is open revolt. Whispers turning into loud conversations. Leaks flooding out to the media. Eyebrows raised from ESPN to team facilities across the league. And sitting smack dab in the middle of it all, Shedeur Sanders. You know, the quarterback with first-round pedigree, NFL bloodlines poised for days, and a seat so cold on the Browns bench, you'd think they forgot he existed. Except they didn't forget. They buried him. On purpose. And now, the players know it. They're watching it happen in real time. And some of them are done pretending they're okay with it.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Because here's the truth. The locker room has had it. Had it with the politics. Had it with the mismanagement. Had it with the coaching staff playing scared and the front office pretending like it's not their problem. And at the center of this storm is the biggest question of the Brown season. Not can we make the playoffs, or is the defense elite? No. The question is, what the hell is going on with Shedeur Sanders? From day one, this was messy. Shedeur comes in with hype, with momentum, and most importantly, with the backing of a large segment of the locker room. Players wanted to see what he had. They saw the reps. They saw the spark. They talked. And now they're talking louder. Because despite what they've seen on the field, Shedeur's been stonewalled. Relegated to third string. Treated like a practice body, while less talented QBs rotate through the system like fast food shifts. And no one's buying the excuses anymore. Not the veterans, who've watched young talent rise and fall based on politics instead of merit. Not the younger guys, who see Shedeur as a symbol of what happens when talent meets franchise fear. And definitely not the fans, who are waking up to what's really going on behind those closed doors. Let's not sugarcoat it. This is sabotage. Calculated, deliberate, and stupid. The Browns are holding Shedeur back, and everyone knows it. Not because he's not ready, but because someone in power is too scared to pull the trigger. Too afraid that giving Shedeur a real shot might shake up the pecking order. Too scared that if he succeeds, certain coaches and execs might have to answer for why he didn't get that shot sooner. So instead, they're sitting on a potential franchise QB like he's a lottery ticket they're afraid to scratch. And now, the tension is boiling over. Multiple reports from inside the locker room say players are fed up. There's been shouting matches behind closed doors. Cold shoulders between coaches and position groups. Players questioning schemes, questioning reps, and, yes, questioning leadership. The locker room, which is supposed to be the most sacred space in the building, is now a battleground. Not just for wins, but for truth. And the cracks are showing. Shedeur has become the line in the sand. The symbol. The "are you with us or with them" moment that every broken team eventually reaches. You know the kind. The Patriots had it with Mac Jones. The Jets had it with Zach Wilson. The Browns? They've now got it with Shedeur Sanders. Except this time, it's not him creating the drama. It's the silence around him. The mystery. The complete and utter refusal to even let the man compete. And let's not ignore the leaks. Oh, the leaks. It's almost daily at this point. Details slipping out. Players venting. Insiders whispering about philosophical disagreements and leadership confusion. The Browns can try to patch it up all they want, but you can't plug holes in a dam with press conferences. Not when half your roster is staring at the coaching staff like, why are we tanking potential? Why are we protecting egos over progress? Why are we watching our best shot at a spark just sit on the sideline? Because make no mistake, this team is flat. The energy? Gone. The momentum? Slipping. The chemistry? Fractured. You can feel it on the sidelines, see it in the body language, hear it in the post-game interviews that say a lot by saying nothing at all. And all of it circles back to one decision. Sit Shedeur. Or unleash him. Right now, they've chosen the former. They've chosen fear. And it's costing them everything. Look, this isn't about throwing a rookie into the fire just for the drama. This isn't about some fantasy that Shedeur is going to come in and be Mahomes 2.0. This is about giving him a real shot, a fair shot, a developmental path, a system designed to nurture, not neuter. Instead, they've locked him in a glass case labeled, break only if every other plan fails, and even then, think twice. And that kind of mismanagement doesn't just kill potential. It kills locker rooms. Because NFL players aren't stupid. They see when someone's being iced out. They see when talent gets squashed because someone upstairs has thin skin. And once that trust is broken, it doesn't come back. We've seen this movie before, haven't we? A young QB mismanaged into irrelevance. A coaching staff too stubborn or too insecure to pivot. A fan base growing restless. A locker room growing bitter. You'd think Cleveland would know better by now. But no. Instead, they become the cautionary tale. Again. And now we're at a crossroads. Either Shedeur Sanders gets unleashed, or this franchise goes down in flames. That might sound dramatic, but it's the truth. Because this isn't just about one player. It's about everything he represents. Hope, change, progress, leadership, and most importantly, a future. A future the Browns seem hell-bent on denying, either because they can't see it, or because they're too scared to admit it might not involve the current power structure. Meanwhile, rival teams are circling like sharks. They're watching the tape. They're reading the reports. They're seeing how Cleveland is letting a rare quarterback talent rot on the vine. And you better believe they're preparing their offers. Because if the Browns continue down this path, they're not just going to lose Shedeur. They're going to lose him to someone smarter. And when that day comes, when Shedeur gets his shot somewhere else and shines, you'll hear the laughter from every corner of the league. Because everyone saw it coming, except the people who could have stopped it. So what now? Do the Browns finally grow a spine? Do they admit they've made a mess and give Shedeur the reps he deserves? Or do they double down on the dysfunction? Ride the denial train straight into mediocrity? That decision is coming. And it won't just define Shedeur's career. It'll define theirs. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is the Browns' locker room officially broken? Should Shedeur demand a trade? And if he did, which team should come calling? Because at this point, anything would be better than Cleveland. Subscribe for more chaos, drama, and NFL truth bombs. This story's not over. Not by a long shot. And trust us, when Shedeur Sanders finally gets his moment, we'll be right here watching Cleveland try to explain why they let him go. Because if you think this storm's gonna blow over quietly, you don't know Cleveland. And you definitely don't know NFL locker rooms. This isn't just about a quarterback being benched. This is about trust being broken. And once that trust fractures inside a locker room, you don't fix it with team meetings and PR spin. You fix it by making things right. And the Browns? They're running out of time. Right now, players are looking around that locker room thinking, if this is how they treat Shedeur, what happens when they're done with me? Because it's not just one guy on the wrong end of a bad call. It's the entire culture, rotten from the top down. Think about this. We've got veterans shaking their heads in disbelief. Younger guys asking questions in team huddles they're not supposed to be asking. Leaders on the defense reportedly approaching coaches behind closed doors. Not to gossip. Not to stir the pot. To say, why are we sabotaging our own future? This isn't some petty QB controversy. This is a culture crisis. Let's go deeper. Inside the locker room, there's something called the shield. Not the NFL shield, the invisible one. The one players build between each other. It's respect, brotherhood, that feeling that no matter what, we're in this together. But that shield? It's cracking. Because you've got players who see Shedeur come in early, stay late, put in the work, lead with maturity beyond his years, and still get iced out like he's radioactive. And now the whispers are getting louder. They're scared of what happens if he succeeds. They don't want to be proven wrong. They're protecting someone else. No one's saying names. Not yet. But the message is clear. There's a civil war brewing. One side wants to win. The other side wants control. And guess what? The side that wants to win is done playing nice. Because what happens when players start choosing sides against the coaches? When they start tuning out the game plan? When they stop trusting that the guy on the sidelines actually wants what's best for the team? You get collapse. And that's exactly what's happening. The Browns are on the verge of imploding, not because of injuries or bad luck, but because the people in charge can't admit they're wrong. And let's call it what it is: fear. They're afraid that putting Shedeur in makes them look like they were wrong for holding him back. They're afraid that a rookie QB with swagger, vision, and composure might outshine the current starter and upset the status quo. But what they should be afraid of is losing the locker room for good. Because once players stop believing in the mission, once they feel like politics matter more than performance, you don't just lose games. You lose the soul of the team. And then comes the unraveling. Losses start to pile up. Fingers start pointing. Coaches start lashing out. Players start checking out. The media starts circling. And the fans? Oh, the fans start booing. Because don't forget, the Cleveland fan base has been through hell and back. They've watched rebuild after rebuild crash and burn. They've supported every regime, every new QB of the future, every promise of we're turning a corner. And now, when they finally see a spark, when they see a young QB who might actually be different, they're watching the team extinguish it before it even catches fire. It's insulting. It's exhausting. And it's happening in plain sight. Let's talk about the fans for a second. These are people who wear paper bags over their heads in shame one week and then paint their faces in freezing weather the next. Cleveland fans are ride or die, but right now a lot of them are thinking about walking. Not because they don't love the team, but because the team clearly doesn't love winning as much as it loves being comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of greatness. The Browns have become obsessed with managing optics instead of developing outcomes. They'd rather look like they have a plan than actually have one. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders is standing on the sidelines, helmet in hand, watching it all burn. And you know what? He's not mad. He's calm. Terrifyingly calm. Because the real scary quarterbacks, the ones who change franchises, they don't yell when they're doubted. They remember. They store every slight, every skipped rep, every excuse, every reporter who said they weren't ready, every coach who said, maybe next season. And then, when the moment comes, boom, legacy. You want to know what this is really setting up for? A classic revenge narrative. The Browns are writing the origin story of the QB who got benched, ignored, and undervalued, only to torch the league with another franchise. It's inevitable. There's already chatter across the league. Executives watching film. Scouts calling agents. People asking questions like, how did Cleveland mess this up? Why hasn't he played yet? What's it going to take to pry him loose? Because everyone smells blood. And the Browns? They're too busy putting out locker room fires with PR band-aids to notice that the vultures are circling. And here's the kicker. Once the locker room collapses and the losses mount and the media calls turn hostile, they'll try to pivot. They'll throw Shedeur in out of desperation, not belief. And by then, it might be too late. Because confidence? That's not just about how you play. It's about knowing the people around you have your back. And right now, no one in power has Shedeur's. The players do. The fans do. The league does. But the coaches? The front office? Crickets. That's what makes this even worse. It's not just about wasting talent. It's about betraying trust. And once you lose that, good luck getting it back. So here we are. A locker room in chaos. A franchise afraid of its own potential. And a quarterback sitting silently, watching history write itself around him. The Browns have a choice to make. They can either be the team that got it right, late but right, and turned the season around by believing in their future. Or they can be the team that fumbled greatness for the 20th time and added another painful chapter to the saddest saga in football. And for Shedeur, he's waiting, not begging, not asking, just waiting. Because when his time comes, and it will, you better believe he won't just play for a win. He'll play to prove everyone wrong. Cleveland had a star, and they let fear turn the lights off. See, The Browns are standing on the edge of a cliff. Behind them is decades of dysfunction. Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser, Baker Mayfield, all the quarterbacks and all the promises that never made it past Thanksgiving. In front of them, possibly the one shot they've had in years to break the cycle. And they're staring into the void, clipboard in hand, wondering if they should jump. But the thing about cliffhangers, literal and narrative, is they don't last forever. Eventually, someone makes a move. And right now, all signs point to an implosion. Because the locker room isn't just fractured. It's furious. There's one story going around. And no, we're not naming names. But it involves a player openly questioning a coach's decision to ignore Shedeur's performance in practice. Not in some quiet, let's talk after the meeting way. Out loud. In the room. In front of everybody. And the coach? Reportedly just froze. Didn't argue. Didn't respond. Just stood there. Because what do you say when the players are calling out what everyone watching from the outside can already see? That this has nothing to do with readiness and everything to do with fear, with politics, with protecting a narrative that's collapsing faster than a 2-minute drill gone wrong. And if you think the players are the only ones noticing, think again. Scouts from other teams have been seen showing up at games early, not to watch the starters, to watch warm-ups, pre-game throws, sideline interactions, body language. Why? Because Shedeur Sanders has become the NFL's worst-kept secret. The Browns may not want him, but everybody else does. And the league is watching Cleveland botch it in real time. Think about that. Every other team out there that's quarterback-starved or just smart enough to recognize a young star being suppressed has a front-row seat to a franchise choking on its own indecision. So while Cleveland stalls, the market builds. The moment they let him go, even by accident, someone's going to pounce. The only real question left is, will Shedeur succeed with the Browns or in spite of them? Right now, every action by the coaching staff is screaming in spite of. Let's be honest, this whole situation has become less about football and more about power. Who gets to be right? Who gets to control the narrative? Who gets to say, I told you so, when the dust settles? And in the middle of that petty little war, you've got a player, a young man, a quarterback, sitting in a facility every day, doing the work, handling the heat, being the professional that everyone else refuses to be. You don't think that sends a message to the locker room? Because here's what players respect above all else: effort, accountability, and fairness. And right now, Shedeur's bringing the first two in spades. But the third? Nowhere to be found. The coaches talk about culture. But what kind of culture are you building when your best young talent isn't being developed, just hoarded? What does that say to the locker room? To the next guy trying to make the depth chart? To every rookie watching how this team handles its future? Because don't forget, this league runs on perception. And Cleveland's perception is quickly becoming a cautionary tale again. Even worse, it's becoming predictable. You know how every season, there's that one franchise everyone expects to fumble their own success? To snatch defeat from the jaws of potential? Yeah, it's Cleveland. Every year. Without fail. And now, with Shedeur Sanders right there, they're doing it again. They drafted a future star and then locked him in a vault, hoping no one would notice. But now, the vault door's been blown wide open, and the noise is deafening. The question is, how much longer can they pretend they don't hear it? Because, at some point, one of two things happens. Either they give in. Finally, they stop running from the future. They play Shedeur. Maybe out of desperation, maybe because someone above finally forces the issue. Either way, he takes the field. And, if he shines, there's no going back. They'll have to answer for every week they wasted. Or, he's gone. Quietly, suddenly, and permanently. Whether it's a trade, a release, or some backdoor roster maneuvering, they move on and watch helplessly as he becomes a Pro Bowler somewhere else. The next great How Did They Let Him Go? Story that plays on loop every Sunday morning pregame show. Either way, the Browns lose something. And the locker room? They know it. Right now, there are players texting each other during meetings. Group chats buzzing. Eyes rolling every time a coach dodges a question about quarterback development. Trust? Erased. This isn't just uncomfortable, it's untenable. And don't even get us started on the media. What began as a whisper campaign has turned into a full-on feeding frenzy. Every sports podcast, every beat reporter, every talking head on morning shows is hammering the same question. What's really going on in Cleveland? And the longer the Browns dodge it, the worse it gets. At this point, the silence isn't strategy, it's a confession. A big, loud, guilty one. Because if Shedeur wasn't ready, they'd show us. If he really was developmental, we'd see proof. If there was a plan, they'd say it. Publicly. Proudly. But there's none of that. Just vague statements. Cryptic depth charts. And a team looking more lost by the week. This is more than just a quarterback controversy. This is the moment where Cleveland decides what kind of franchise it actually wants to be. Is it going to be bold? Or scared? Is it going to be the team that took a leap and embraced its future? Or the team that once again drowned in its own dysfunction, while the rest of the league watched and said, yep, same old Browns. Right now, they're choosing the second option. But it's not too late. Not yet. They can still fix this. They can still own the moment, rally the team, ignite the fan base, and change the conversation. But only if they stop playing scared and start playing smart. Let Shedeur play. Let the chips fall where they may. Because keeping him on the bench to protect someone's ego, that's not leadership. That's insecurity with a headset on. And that's how dynasties never begin. So here's where we leave it, for now. A locker room on the brink. A quarterback in limbo. A fan base out of patience. And a franchise, once again, holding its future in trembling hands. Will they finally take the shot? Or are we watching the Browns bury the only light they've had in years, just to avoid admitting they were wrong? Tell us what you think. Is Cleveland finally about to implode? Should Shedeur be freed before it's too late? And which team would actually deserve him? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for the next chapter of this saga. Because let's be honest, the Browns may not know how to develop a quarterback, but they sure know how to create drama. And when the meltdown hits, we'll have the front row seat, receipts and all.